Today, we are going to learn about biological classification. Let's understand how scientists classify living organisms and why this system has changed over time. Biological classification helps us organize and study the diversity of life based on similarities and relationships among organisms.
Before we jump right into it, I would kindly ask you to subscribe for the channel to stay updated.
History and evolution of classification. Since ancient times, humans have tried to classify living things, mainly for practical uses like food, shelter, and clothing. Early methods weren't scientific. For example, Aristotle grouped plants into trees, shrubs, and herbs based on their shape and divided animals into those with red blood and those without. Later, Carl Linnaeus introduced a two-kingdom system, dividing life into Plantae and Animalia. However, this system had problems. It couldn't tell the difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes, unicellular and multicellular organisms, photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. Because of these limitations, many organisms didn't fit into Plantae or Animalia. Scientists realized the need for new ways to classify organisms by studying cell structure, nutrition, and evolutionary relationships. Over time, these improvements led to better classification systems. In 1969, R. H. Whitaker proposed the five-kingdom system. This divides life into 5 groups. First, Monera, prokaryotes like bacteria. Second, Protista, unicellular eukaryotes like amoeba and chlamydomonas. Third, fungi, organisms with chitin cell walls, like mushrooms. Fourth, Plantae, green plants with cellulose cell walls. Fifth, Animalia, multicellular animals without cell walls. This system solved earlier problems. It separated fungi from plants because fungi are heterotrophic and have chitin in their walls. Prokaryotic organisms like bacteria were grouped in Monera. Unicellular eukaryotes were placed in Protista, combining forms like amoeba, previously in Animalia, and chlamydomonas, previously in Plantae. This shows how new discoveries change classification systems to reflect the evolutionary relationships among organisms. In the future, as we learn more, these systems may improve even further. Kingdom Monera. In the biological classification system, Kingdom Monera consists solely of bacteria, which are the most abundant microorganisms on Earth. Bacteria are found in almost every environment, from soil to extreme habitats like hot springs, deserts, and the deep oceans. They can also live as parasites inside or on other organisms. Bacteria are classified into 4 main shapes. Cocci, spherical. Bacilli, rod-shaped. Vibrium, comma-shaped, and Spirilla, spiral. Despite their simple structure, bacteria are very complex in their behavior. They show a wide range of metabolic diversity, meaning they can perform different processes to get their energy. Some bacteria are autotrophic, which means they can make their own food through processes like photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. Most bacteria, however, are heterotrophic, meaning they depend on organic matter or other organisms for food. There are 2 main types of bacteria. Type 1, Archaeobacteria. These bacteria live in extreme environments, such as salty lakes, hot springs, or marshes. They have special cell walls that help them survive in these harsh conditions. For example, methanogens, a type of Archaeobacteria, are found in the guts of animals like cows and help produce methane gas. Type 2, Eubacteria, often referred to as true bacteria, these include cyanobacteria, also called blue-green algae. These bacteria contain chlorophyll A and can photosynthesize, just like green plants. Eubacteria play a crucial role in processes like nutrient recycling and breaking down organic material. Some of them can even fix nitrogen, helping plants grow. Kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista is a group that includes all single-celled eukaryotes, organisms whose cells have a nucleus. This kingdom is a link between plants, animals, and fungi, and it contains organisms that have a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Protists can move with flagella or cilia, and they can reproduce both sexually and asexually. Some examples of protists include chrysophytes, which include organisms like diatoms and golden algae. Diatoms are microscopic, photosynthetic, and can be found in both freshwater and marine environments. They have a unique structure. Their cell walls are made of silica and form two overlapping shells, like a soapbox. These cell walls are indestructible, and over time, they leave behind large deposits called diatomaceous earth. This material is used in products like polish and filters. Diatoms play a very important role as primary producers in aquatic ecosystems, forming the base of many marine food chains. This classification system helps us understand the vast diversity of life and how organisms are related based on shared characteristics. Dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates are marine, photosynthetic organisms that can appear in various colors such as yellow, green, brown, blue, or red, depending on the pigments present in their cells. These organisms have a unique structure, including stiff cellulose plates in their cell wall, and two flagella, one running longitudinally and the other transversely between the plates. Some red dinoflagellates, like gonyawaks, reproduce quickly, causing red tides. During these events, the release of toxins can harm marine life, such as fish, eugenoids. Eugenoids are mostly freshwater organisms that have a flexible, protein-rich layer called a pellicle instead of a cell wall, which allows them to change shape. They possess two flagella, one long and one short. When light is available, they are photosynthetic, but in the absence of sunlight, they behave as heterotrophs, feeding on smaller organisms. Eugenoids share pigments similar to those found in higher plants, and euglena is a well-known example. Slime molds. Slime molds are saprophytic protists that feed on decaying organic matter. They move along surfaces, engulfing organic material. Under favorable conditions, they aggregate to form a plasmodium, which can grow and spread over large areas. In unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium forms resistant spores that can survive for many years. These spores are dispersed by air currents, allowing slime molds to survive in harsh environments. Protozoans. Protozoans are single-celled organisms that are all heterotrophic, meaning they obtain their nutrition by consuming other organisms. They are considered primitive relatives of animals and are divided into four major groups. First, amoeboid protozoans, like amoeba, move and capture food using pseudopodia, false feet. Some, like antamoeba, are parasitic. Second, flagellated protozoans, such as trypanosoma, cause diseases like sleeping sickness. Third, ciliated protozoans, like paramecium, move actively using cilia and have a gullet to capture food. Fourth, sporozoans, such as plasmodium, have an infectious spore stage and are responsible for diseases like malaria. Kingdom fungi. Fungi are a diverse group of organisms that are heterotrophic, meaning they depend on other organisms for nutrition. They can be found in a variety of habitats and play crucial roles as decomposers, breaking down organic material. Some fungi are used in food production, like yeast for bread and beer, while others cause diseases in plants and animals. Fungi are typically filamentous, meaning their bodies consist of long, thread-like structures called hyphae. These hyphae form a network known as mycelium. The cell walls of fungi are made of chitin. Fungi can be classified into several groups. First, Phycomycetes, like Mucor and Rhizopus, bread mold, are often found in aquatic habitats or on decaying plant material. Second, Ascomycetes, such as Penicillium, are either saprophytic or parasitic. They reproduce asexually by producing conidia and sexually by forming ascospores inside sac-like structures called asc. Third, Basidiomycetes, including mushrooms and rust fungi like Baccinia, have a unique stage called the dikaryon, where two nuclei remain separate before fusion. They produce sexual spores called basidiospores. Fourth, deuteromycetes, also known as imperfect fungi, only reproduce asexually and are classified by their conidia. These fungi were once called imperfect because their sexual forms were unknown but are now classified in other fungal groups once discovered. By understanding these organisms and their roles in nature, we can better appreciate the diversity and complexity of life in different ecosystems. The kingdom Plantae. The kingdom Plantae consists of eukaryotic organisms that contain chlorophyll, allowing them to carry out photosynthesis. Most plants are autotrophic, meaning they produce their own food, but some, like insectivorous plants, for example, bladderwort and Venus flytrap, and parasites, for example, cuscuta, are partially heterotrophic, obtaining some nutrients from other organisms. Plant cells have chloroplasts for photosynthesis and cell walls made of cellulose. The plant kingdom is diverse, encompassing groups such as algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. Plants follow a unique life cycle that alternates between two stages, the sporophytic means, diploid, phase and the gametophytic means, haploid, phase. This process is called alternation of generations, and the duration and independence of each phase can vary across plant groups. You will learn more about the details of this life cycle in Chapter 3. The kingdom Animalia. The kingdom Animalia includes multicellular, eukaryotic organisms that are heterotrophic, relying on other organisms for food, and lack cell walls. Animals rely on plants, either directly or indirectly, for food and digest their food in internal cavities. The mode of nutrition in animals is holozoic, meaning they ingest food and break it down within their bodies. Animals undergo growth, developing into adults with specific shapes and sizes. Higher animals have complex sensory and neuromotor systems, allowing them to interact with their environment and move. Sexual reproduction in animals involves the mating of male and female individuals, followed by embryonic development. Beyond plants and animals, there are also acellular organisms, such as viruses, viroids, and lichens. Viruses are non-living, parasitic agents that require a host cell to replicate, causing diseases like AIDS and influenza. Viroids are even smaller infectious agents, made of RNA only, and can cause diseases like potato spindle tuber disease. Lichens are symbiotic associations between algae, which are autotrophic, and fungi, which are heterotrophic. They serve as important pollution indicators, thriving only in clean, unpolluted environments.